I'm Miriam.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Beth. Hi, Carrie.
Hello.
Miss Penny. Carrie, I'm going to try and make you co-host so you can let people in.
Okay.
Hi, Beth.
Hello. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Hi, Scott.
Hi, gang.
Hey,
Happy
Scott.
Thursday.
All right. Well, it's 7:02 and we have a quorum. And we're waiting for Mary, but I think we can call the meeting for 7:02. So Penny is here, and I think Liam is going to be joining us soon, right, Penny? She's on mute. Here comes Liam.
Did someone send Liam a link to the meeting?
I'm not sure if I did. I thought I did, but anyway, he's here.
Oh, good. Excellent. Hi, Liam.
Hi, Liam.
Hi, Liam. Miss you.
Hello, how's everybody doing?
Good.
All right. We're going to be considering the Southbrook Conservation Mapping updates. And we're going to do that in a couple of minutes. First on the agenda is to consider the minutes. And before I do that, I wanted to give people a reminder, just because we haven't mentioned this in a while, that when we're scheduling site visits, if you discover or notice that you are an abutter to that site, you should recuse yourself and not participate in the site visit. Just a good reminder, because sometimes we lose track of that. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from January?
Yes,
They were a bear. It was a long meeting.
it was.
And this was Carrie's first try doing part of the minutes, and then I did part of them. So we both got through it. Do we have any comments or revisions? I don't see it. Mary has not joined us. I guess she's not here.
Just a minor, more of a typo kind of thing.
Where?
Page 6.
Oh, wow. Page
Page
6. Right.
25. Okay, page 6. I'm on page 6.
Top paragraph.
Yeah.
At the end, it says that you, anyway, after it says Mary seconded, and then we take the vote, it doesn't say David I. It just automatically goes to I, and then the font I, and it's not a big deal. I mean, I knew it was David, but
Yes. Did we do that anywhere else? Because it might have been copying that. Let me check. No.
I did not see it anywhere else.
Good catch, though. Okay, looks good to me.
But after, 12 pages, I might have missed a couple.
It's brutal, just brutal. This is what happens when we have 3-hour meetings.
I know, when I got to the end of the minutes and it said when we signed off, I was like 9:54 or whatever it was. I was like, that's right, it was 3 hours.
Okay, we should never do that. Okay, so do we have a motion? Do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the minutes with that minor correction.
Okay, second. Is Beth?
Second.
Okay, we don't have David, so DeFont, I, Harrington,
Aye.
Han,
Aye.
and Wilson.
Aye.
Okay. Looks like we don't have anybody from the public for public comments today. We have the 7:30 public hearing with Joe Salvador. I see Joe is here. Hi, Joe. He's on mute.
Aye.
So we've got about 20 minutes to talk about the mapping. So Penny and Liam, do you want to begin this? And would you want me to screen share anything right now?
Can you, I know I sent the Liam's responses to my questions out to everyone a couple days ago. Are you able to share that document? Or,
I'm looking for it.
or,
What was the name of the document, just so I can
oh
find
gosh,
it?
what was the name
Got
of
too
the
many things
document?
open. I do have it open somewhere. Let me see if I can find it on my desktop.
There should be a lot of red font, so that could help. But I'm trying to look,
Okay, here it
because
is.
my answers were in red font, so that might be
Got
a
Oh.
distinguishing factor.
And I'm not sure how the commission wants to start
Is
with
it
this.
just- Can you guys see it?
I see a table that says wet area with ORV tracks.
Okay.
This doesn't look like the,
Yes, it is though. Let me scroll
I
up.
think if you go up, yes.
okay.
So before we start, let me just say that I think rather than having a super long conversation about this, we should have a modest conversation about it. And if there are lots of points that need to be discussed, I think I suggested in my email that there be at least one representative, but not a quorum, from the commission and me. And I don't know, it would be kind of great to have Janice be part of this because she knows the property so well to go through things if it turns out there are unresolved issues. So I just wanted to throw that out before we got into a super long conversation, because I had a lot of questions for Liam, and you may have some too after looking at the map and looking at the exchange between Liam and me. So with that said,
I'm wondering if it would be more expedient for us just to look at the map and then talk about the issues and ask questions. Could we do that? Or do you guys want to go through this?
well, I don't know that we need to go through it blow by blow. I hope people at least looked at it and it either they felt good about the responses or it raised questions for them. I will say, when I looked at it, I was reassured. When I looked at the map, I felt like there were wet areas everywhere, and Liam reassured me that it's not wet everywhere, that there are some wet areas. So I don't know how other people felt about that, but it was comforting to know that it's not just entirely a wet area.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there's one very major wet area, and that's that ATV snowmobile Woods Road trail on the southern section, which I believe is right next to the bridge crossing for Southbrook.
Mhm.
So that area is pretty
I'm gonna,
problematic.
guys, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna screen share the map because I do have some questions, but I don't feel like I can really do justice to it without looking at the map. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Yes, and I would share the map that's part of this document, because one of the things that Liam has on there is a proposed reroute area. And then I had also on a different map, he showed where the woods trails are, or the
Yeah.
old wood roads are.
Trying to do that. Give me a sec. Okay. Okay, now we got it. I think I can screen share the right map. I did have some questions, Liam, about the map, and maybe you can explain your thinking about it. Can people see it now?
Some of it. Oh,
Yep.
okay.
There you go.
Yep.
So when I looked at this, and can you see my cursor?
Yep.
It looked like you were recommending discontinuing this section of trail down here. And this is where that little snowmobile bridge is. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that area, it's very consistently muddy, and on pretty much every site visit I've been out there, there have been ATV tracks there. So I don't know if it's going to be possible to close that trail, but to me, it feels like that would be an area to consider a reroute. And I would be happy to go out with you all to look at the site again if you wanted to.
We have posted the property, so the ATVs are not allowed out there, but they're out there anyway.
Right.
What I was noticing is that I know on this section of trail right here, there are several, at least 2 wetlands that are going this way, crossing the trail. And I know you weren't delineating all the wetlands, but I'm, this trail, I wondered about whether we needed to have some sort of something to kind of armor that trail so it doesn't there isn't as much scouring.
Right. So I think there's at least 2 small stream crossings on that trail, and there should be on the map with the photo locations that it should correspond to photos. So I don't think that's on this map, but I did share a
I don't
photo
think I saw that
map.
map.
Okay.
Was that in
Yes.
that? I don't know if that was in the, I don't know if I circulated that map. I have one labeled trail map reroute and trail map with woods roads.
Liam, are you referring to the original map that you provided? That
I'm
had-
referring, yeah, so there was a map with red dots that showed locations of the photos that I included in the report. So that's what I'm referring to. But in any case, there's
I don't
I
think,
think about-
Liam, I don't know that I have a document that has photos in it.
I sent that out to everyone prior to
Is it
your
this document?
January meeting.
Oh, it's an older document.
No, this is,
Okay, this is a different document. Okay. Do you have that? Can I let you screen share?
I have it up.
Okay, let me.
And then I'll
let-
also try to just pull up the map quickly too that I shared with Penny with the photo locations.
Stop screen sharing.
Oh yeah, so it is, okay, I'll just share my screen. Okay, so this is the map with the photo locations, and I'm guessing 26 and 25 document those wet areas. So let's just scroll down.
Has everybody looked at this document? Because I think I missed it.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay, just me.
Yeah, here we go. So this is the stream that crosses the trail. They're both pretty close together.
Mhm.
This one doesn't have an existing crossing, and I think I recommended, yeah, so a small bridge or like a bog bridge or stepstones would be recommended here just to keep people out of the stream. And then same here, this one has an existing tiny homemade bog bridge that somebody threw in. And it also, when I was out there, the drainage was clogged. So, I mean, one thing that I recommended in general was that if somebody's doing maintenance out there on an annual basis, that they just pull out any leafy debris that might create flooding on the trail, so it doesn't increase the flooding on the trail essentially and makes it easier for people to cross. But these are the 2 areas on that trail, Miriam, that I think you're referring to.
I mean, that trail curves around, I guess, to the south. And that's where that overlook is, it kind of goes downhill.
Mhm.
And so it's very scenic. So I wonder about discontinuing that, because I imagine people like to walk on it because it's a very scenic part of the trail.
Right. Yeah, I'm not recommending discontinuing it. So
Okay.
I think the trail that I was not sure about is this one here. And that's what I have been referring to as the caution tape trail, because whoever built it flagged it with caution tape. And that one is clear. It's clearly user made. It's actually a pretty nice route, but I wasn't sure how you all would feel about that one, just because it was user made, and I'm not sure if folks wanted it to be there. Also, right here at photo 16, it's really hard to see the entrance to the trail right now. You can pretty clearly see it from the south side. So it would be easier to close if you wanted to, but I know Penny had mentioned it might be interesting to have a loop on the south side. So that is an option right now.
Is
Right.
that branch before it starts sloping downhill? Or is that at the bottom, sort of halfway down? I'm not sure where that trail leaves, looks like.
I think it's probably right around where it starts sloping downhill, although, so
It looks
this
like it's
is,
around 24
Mhm.
from looking at the map where red dot 24 is.
right,
that-
so 24 is on the caution tape trail.
That's a trail that I remember Janice, you called attention to. You noticed it.
So yeah, we could look at some of the conditions. This is the stream crossing, and you can
Mm.
actually see a bit of the flagging. And there are some other wet areas here.
Mm-hmm.
So if you did want to open this trail, I think it would probably require the most work to make usable. But I mean, it's currently usable to a degree. It's just clear, it's somebody built it, you know. I don't have a good photo of the intersection, but I know that it's right near 16. So I think this is, you can see the slope heading downhill here. And I think the trail is somewhere around here. I can't remember exactly though.
So this is Penny. I have a quick question for Janice, who I know had a connection to the Southbrook property from the very beginning. Janice, do you know who put in those trails? Were they sanctioned trails or are those just entirely user trails?
I, the picture with the bridge, the snowmobile bridge, that
Mhm.
was in place, or some version of that was in place because the snowmobiles were using it long before we acquired the property.
Mhm.
I'm not sure about the other trails in the south part. Leslie might know, Bracebridge might
Mhm.
know better than I don't remember. I know I would always wander in there and try to find my way. So there weren't clear trails at any rate when I went in there. So I'm not sure, but I don't remember ever having any permitting for any trails, bridges, or anything.
Nor do I. Nor do I.
Yeah.
And it was always kind of startling to walk through there and see, some sorts of bridges, et cetera,
Yeah.
throughout the property.
Hmm.
Okay,
One of the
thank
things that this project, and I really appreciate the work that you and Penny have done, Liam, but one of the things that it's highlighted for me is the importance of our, kind of having a maintenance plan for this property. For example, there's now a lot of flagging tape up there. There's a whole trail of pink flagging tape from the proposed mountain biking, and now there's this caution tape trail. And I think at some point we might want to have a maintenance party where we go out and take down some of these haphazard sort of flagging so that we can keep people on trails that are flat, that we blazed and mapped.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and perhaps having an annual maintenance schedule as well. The other thing that I just want to mention is it would be great to blaze some more of the trails too, just to give folks a sense of what's kind of official and what's unofficial, and that could correspond to a trail map. So that might, increase use on the trails that you want to be used, and decrease use on the trails that you don't want to see used as well, especially if you strategically camouflage the entrances to trails.
Right.
I know
So
one of the
That's a
questions.
good idea. I like that idea.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there might be a different route in the Southbrook, which is the southern part of the conservation area, that avoids some of the wetlands issues. And I haven't just sort of trekked off the trails, so I don't really know if that's the answer, but I'm almost wondering if perhaps closer to Locks Pond Road, there might be a trail that traverses more of a dry area. Does anyone, either Janice or Liam, or I guess probably you two are the only ones that have spent a good amount of time out there. Any thoughts?
We bring up the map again, so I'll pull it up.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because the other thing that I worry about are some of those stone groupings as well, and I'm not sure where they are in relation to the present trails, and most of them did not seem to be on present trails, but some were near them. So it's sort of like juggling the two things, but yeah, I think it would be nice to be able to avoid, if it's not necessary, some of those wetland areas, if it can be rerouted enough to stay on higher ground.
Yeah, I'd say it's certainly a possibility. You kind of have to take it on a case by case basis, but from a lot of the sites that I looked at, the trails just kind of happened to pass through these small depressions that were inundated, and when you looked around, it wasn't like that everywhere. So it's possible to reroute, or it's possible to do bog bridging through a lot of those areas too. So that trail that's kind of between the highlighted trails, the caution tape trail, you're going to have to go over that stream regardless. You know that trail also does pass by some of the stone groupings, and some of them are visible. They're closer to Locks Pond Road. And then there's also a potential vernal pool that you can see from that trail as well, which is kind of interesting. I wouldn't say it's necessary to reroute the trail away, but it could be worth yeah, when Tessa and I were out there, we found some egg masses, which ended up not hatching because the pool completely dried up at some point. But yeah, anyway, in most cases, it seems like there is an option for a small reroute, but I think most things could also be addressed with bog bridging. So it kind of depends on what solution you want to implement.
I'd like to set up in the spring a site visit with the commission and go out and walk through the trails, and maybe we could combine it with doing some maintenance at the same time.
Yeah,
I like that idea.
yeah.
Sounds great.
Carrie, you
I'm
have your hand
wondering
raised?
in some of the treks around.
Wait a sec. Carrie's had her hand raised.
Oh, sure.
Sorry, no. I just had maybe like a small suggestion or something. Maybe I do understand like the concern around like the trail being around like the vernal pool, just for it being like exposed and like just generally exposed. But I was wondering if maybe there'd be a way of incorporating it almost in the trail and almost having it like an educational purpose within the trail, something more interactive. Just when I back when I was in college and we did little trips to conservations areas and stuff like that, they had something similar where they had like little I guess like plaques, like informational things of like what the vernal pool is and like what species come in and out of it and stuff like that. And I thought that would be kind of like a cool aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, one example of that is at the Mount Warner Reservation in Hadley, which is a trustee's property. They have a trail that goes right by two vernal pools, and there's an interpretive sign that talks about species that breed in there and species that hunt for those species. So it's pretty neat, and it could be something to apply for more CPA funding for. If you
I
want
just want to be mindful, we've got to wrap up this discussion because we've got to open the public hearing in 4 minutes, but we could continue it after we continue the public hearing if you guys want some more time. How do people feel? Do we have more questions for Liam?
I just really appreciate all those maps, and they show some different things on different ones, but it also gives us a layout if we want to walk out there for the time being now, just to start getting familiar with the area before we finally get rid of the snow, which will be a while.
And thank you.
I agree with Janice.
And thank you
Thank
for
you.
the shape file, Liam.
Oh yeah, no problem. And if
on
you
the-
all need help with like finalizing a trail map for printing too, I'm happy to
Mhm.
help out with that in the future.
Great.
We also have to make some decisions about signage, because that was also a part of this proposal, was that the grant would include signage. So, but we can table that.
I don't think the grant includes signage.
Oh, it does, and I thought it was including.
It
some-
includes making a map, and I'm feeling a little like we're not quite ready to make a map, because at this point, we're not quite sure where we want people to go. And so my question to Liam, are you willing to hold off on the remainder of the payment for a little bit until we get our act together on this? Because we've paid Liam for like 2/3 of the project. We still owe him another third of what he was contracted for.
Yeah, I can hold off until you're ready to until you know kind of what you want to have open and what you're planning to blaze, if you're going to blaze any new trails too.
Mhm.
And I did provide a few versions of the map in a PowerPoint presentation, which you can kind of edit. It kind of serves as a template. But yeah, I'm happy to kind of finish that too for you guys before we close the project. So just let me know what you're thinking, and we can keep working on it.
Thanks.
Great.
Great. Well, thank you,
Okay.
Liam. Thank you again. This is great work.
Thank you.
Nice to have you back. Okay, so it's 7:29 and Joe's here. Joe, this will just be kind of opening the meeting and continuing it, and then the public hearing, and we won't have any discussion tonight, is my understanding. Is that where you're at?
That's where I'm at, because we already had, yeah, we're based on our emails.
All right, well, we got another minute.
All right, I'm gonna head out. It's good to see everybody. Hope you're all doing well.
You
Take
too.
care, Liam.
Good to see new faces on the commission, and there's a new land use clerk too. That's Carrie?
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Cool. All right. Bye,
Thank you.
everybody. Talk
Bye-bye.
to you soon.
Okay. Well, my clock says 7:30, so we can open the continued public hearing for 31 Lakeview Road, Salvador notice of intent for house demolition and reconstruction. And Joe and his engineer have asked that we continue to Thursday, April 14th at 7:30, so they have time. Ward Smith can't get out and do the wetlands delineation work until the snow melt, which is true for everybody, I think, right now. So
Wait, I'm sorry. Do we say it's being continued to this next March one or until April?
no, it's going to be continued to Thursday, April 14th at 7:30.
Okay, thank you.
And is that it, Joe? Is anything else?
Yeah, that's it, because we gotta wait for Ward to do all of
Okay.
his paperwork.
Okay, so I move that we continue the public hearing for 31 Lakeview Road to, and a notice of intent to Thursday, April 14th at 7:30. Do I have a second?
I second.
Robin seconds. DeFont, aye. Harrington,
Aye.
Khan,
Aye.
and Wilson.
Aye.
All right, so the next piece on our agenda for tonight is.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
And
Joe.
Thank you.
Night.
Yeah.
next thing on our agenda is the CPA proposal for the land acquisition. Penny submitted it. Yay.
Yay.
Hey, all 25 pages of it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, about a third of that was the purchase and sale agreement for the property that Kestrel has entered into with Wendy Pearson, who's the current owner. It was an interesting process to work with Kestrel on this. They had to have everything vetted by their lawyers. So it should be a solid proposal.
Yeah, that's made it a lot easier for us, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's a great proposal. The budgeting and financing is wonderful. It's great to have an 88% match.
Yeah, really.
That we'll never have that again.
No.
Right, which is, Kestrel, one of the representatives, I think it was Bridget Likely, who we've worked with, said that it's typically more of a 50-50
Mhm.
split. So we came out really well on that.
And we did.
Yeah.
So next March 10th, I think, at 6:30 is the public hearing for all of the CPC proposals. And we meet that night at 7. So I guess any of us who want to attend can go for a half an hour, but Penny, you'll be there and you'll present or answer any
Right,
questions.
and are you going to ask for the Historical Commission's project to be first on the docket, or how?
Yeah, I probably will, just
Mhm.
if you don't mind.
Oh,
Just,
no,
I
I'm
don't know,
fine.
are there other projects? I guess there's also another Kestrel project for Ames Pond, which also is great. That's for the bog, the bog bridge, not, the boardwalk
Yep.
over to Ames Pond, which would be great. So, yeah, we'll see what happens at town meeting. I don't know exactly when town meeting is. Do you know, Penny, or anybody?
Well, I've heard it's earlier than June, which it's been during the last 2 years. I'm not sure it's firmly set yet.
Yeah, because they have to, I think they're gonna have to do it outside again.
Well, I think they're discussing, I think they're not sure. I heard the elementary school being considered again, but bless you, Robin.
I know. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Sneezing on camera. Sorry.
My
Anyway,
rapid tests say I'm negative, so I'm.
Well, it didn't go through the ether anyway. So I've heard late April and I've heard May, but I don't know for sure.
All right, well, it's a done deal, so I don't think we have to discuss anything about it at this point, but thank you for all your work on it. It's great. We
It
really
was fun.
appreciate it. We could take things a little out of order. I'm wondering if we want to, since Penny, you're here, do you want to go over the annual report? I had
Well,
a couple of comments about it. I don't know if you saw them.
no, I haven't had a chance to look at them. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Let me pull it up. I've got it open. Let me find it. Annual report is, maybe it's not open. Give me one sec. I've learned that I really have to have all of my documents on my desktop, because when I have them in Dropbox, they don't share very well. No surprise, right? Let's go through another layer. Okay, let me see. I've got to open annual report. So I made a couple of edits. One thing I was it's just a little unclear is the number reckoning, just because there's 37 site visits, 35 projects. And then it says 10 were town affiliated and 24 were on or near Lake Wyola. That adds up to 34. So I'm just wondering if those numbers are right. or if I'm missing something.
Well, I went from the spreadsheet that Tessa put together before she left.
Yeah,
I did not go back and through the information through the notes. And I wasn't present for the site visit, so, all I have to go by is the document. I did go through the spreadsheet. I tallied up the number of site visits. I tallied up the number of projects as best I could.
yeah, I think this is what Robin was noting.
I went through and tallied up all the projects that were on the lake roads.
Yeah,
Only
Yes.
because, and that isn't really essential to have in there, but it's always, when I was responsible for the annual report, it was always interesting to me to see sort of where the workload was.
yeah.
And that's the only reason it's in there. It's not critical.
We could just say 2/3 of the projects were by Lake Wyola, and that would be.
Right. And now this counts, this includes things as straightforward as looking at a tree that needs to be cut down that doesn't get counted as, a request for determination or anything else.
Right.
It just, or it includes somebody who's tearing down a cottage and rebuilding it under a notice of intent. So it's a wide range of activities happening.
Sure. Okay, well, we can leave it as is. We don't, it is what it is. If we don't have that information, I don't think we want to go back and try to figure this out now. But I think we want to make sure for this fiscal year that we are updating the log, and Carrie and I are going to work on that. Yeah,
Right.
Robin.
And I would actually suggest what we've done in the past is just save an old log and write over it. But I think over time it introduces some problems. So I would start with a clean log this time.
Yeah. Where is the log, Penny? Just, I want to see how it's formatted.
Well, I'm sure there's one on the desktop computer,
Okay.
but I believe there's the one I worked from was on the laptop.
I
Okay.
briefly looked through the Excel and I see them in there, but when I click on them, it says like they've either been, what does it say? Let me click on one really quick. It says can't open activity log and highlights. This workbook has either been deleted or not currently accessible.
That's strange.
There's a
Where
few of them. I can see them. It either says SCC activity log and highlights, and it'll say like the year 2020 or 2021. But like I clicked on all of them and they keep saying that.
Does anybody, Penny, do you have it saved in an email or anything?
No, I worked directly off the laptop and I had no problem opening it a month ago.
Let me look. I may actually have it on my computer. You're talking about the log of
Excel sheet. It's an Excel,
The
right?
activity log.
Okay.
Robin, can you mail it to me if you find it?
Yes, because it
Okay.
might be one of the few things that was sent to me, because as you remember, I was asked to take this on because as of last June, July, I was the only one on the commission who'd been on for that whole year. And I was like, I'd never written one of these before. And Penny's like, I'll help you. And then she just got, tons of stuff thrown on her. And anyway, I don't want to get in on all that. But I have a hard copy, but I think I might have a digital. And if I do, I will send it to Penny.
Am I correct, Penny, that nobody's done any updating since Tessa left, right?
I am very sad to say you are correct.
Okay, well, that's a project. We'll work on it. We'll get it up to speed.
And
So
I have the previous logs, but I don't have the,
Okay.
on my computer, I have the previous activity logs, but I don't have the last fiscal year.
So I had a question here about, it said fiscal year 20, but this is 21, right?
Yeah, that's probably my mistake.
And then the question I had is, this annual report is supposed to be kind of a snapshot in time at the end of the fiscal year, which is true. In June 30th of 2021, we
Mhm.
thought, for example, the Baker Road ANRAD was closed. However, now we know that that ORAD is not viable. And so I feel like maybe this is confusing to members of the public who aren't really understanding this. Does it make sense to have a comment about it? Like, stay tuned for the next fiscal
I
year.
think they have to stay tuned. I think this is a snapshot of what you knew as of June 30th, 2021.
Yeah,
And I don't think you can look into the future.
Okay,
yep.
it is hard. And then the other question should this be, where is this? Okay, and then it said the 2020 annual town meeting approved an expense line, but again, I'm wondering, shouldn't it have been 2021? Right now, we're in fiscal year 22.
Well, in 2020, they approved the 2021 budget.
Okay, right. That's right. That's true. Okay, so that's correct. Okay. And then I wasn't sure about when Mary was appointed. I thought she got appointed the same time I did, which would mean that,
Well, I
She-
took this from the activity log. That's what Tessa had written.
I think they were different times.
okay, I'm gonna double check that with Mary. Just to make sure, and just those little other typos, but otherwise, I think it looks good. So I'll take it from here, Penny, and then I'll submit.
Fabulous.
Thank you. And thank you so much for doing this.
Yes.
Thank you, Penny, because I was at wit's end. I did as much as I could, and I just had never done this before. And
Yes.
thank you so much.
Thank
No,
you.
you're welcome. And I will say, for me, it's really just filling in the blank because I did it for 20 years, but the format can change if you as a group decide to go about it in a different way. So just
Yeah.
consider that in the future.
So Penny, there's two more items. There's always items that we want you to stay for. One was the update about the Conservation Commission communications with the other towns, but also we're doing a couple of certificate of compliances with John Gorey at 8 Lake Drive, and you were on the commission when those notices of intent were permitted. So I'm just wondering, can you hang on if we take that one next? Maybe we'll try to move through this. Can we keep you for a few more minutes?
How far back are you trying to make me recall?
I don't know.
On a moment's notice too.
Yesterday. Well, let's do the certificate of compliances, because I know that, do I see John? I see Celeste, which I think is John Gorey. Is that right? John, is that you? You're muted. Hi, you're still muted. Well, maybe they're walked away from the computer. Well, I think we could do the communication with the other conservation commissions as a really quick item, and then when they come back, we'll take them on.
Okay,
So-
and honestly, Miriam, I don't really feel comfortable being part of the certificate of compliance conversation because I don't off the top of my head recall the project.
Okay. I'd had a conversation with John Gorey because the old site visit forms from 2008
And I get, yeah, and I don't remember that.
showed that there was a pipe that wasn't on the site plan. And I asked John about it, and he said that he has an artesian well that has a discharge overflow pipe that drains into the lake
Mhm.
continuously from his well. And that was the question, really, is if you remember that discussion, but I bet you don't.
You're correct.
Okay, then
sorry,
you don't
but-
have to stay for that. Well, let's just talk about the communication with the other boards. So I wanted just to keep the Conservation Commission informed about this communication we've received. We were contacted by 2 different conservation commissions, the chair of the Leverett Conservation Commission and a representative commissioner from the Pelham Conservation Commission, because during the time when we were looking for a land use clerk, they were looking for conservation agents, part-time conservation agents, and they've been unable to fill those positions. And they're now working on developing a plan to create a inter-municipal agreement with a shared professional position. So this is not a land use clerk. This is a professional level position, sort of like what Janice does.
You all right there? Is that working?
Hi. Hi, is that Celeste?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi.
Could you guys hold on for a few more minutes and we'll get
Sure.
to you. We just started another item.
Sure.
Thank you. So they wanted to know if Shutesbury wanted to be a part of this, and Penny and I had some conversations with Becky Torres about it, the town administrator, to see if there might be some interest in the town in exploring this. Becky said she felt like it was not a viable proposal. I found a feasibility study that was conducted for another conservation commission in the eastern part of the state, where they hired a consultant to look at different models for how communities can share conservation agents. And they developed a kind of an analysis with 4 or 5 different financial models, depending on how you structure the position, who is paying for the benefits, things like that. I thought it was pretty creative, actually, and I can share that document if people want. You know, there are some models out there for how towns can enter into intermunicipal agreements and make decisions about things like benefits and you know, who owns or supervises the employee. And I think the other 2 commissions are feeling that with the job market being what it is, it's very, very difficult to entice a professional level person with a very part-time position that doesn't have benefits, that they're not going to have, they're not feeling encouraged that they're going to find and retain people. So the idea of creating a position with more hours and possibly benefits and a higher, you know, a professional level salary.
And do you have a sense that Pelham and Leverett are willing to pay a professional level salary for this? Have they-
That is my understanding tentatively, that that the 2 commissions have agreed on a rate of pay.
Okay.
'Cause before it wasn't very high when I was looking into it before. It was, I think
Yeah.
it was like 15 and the other was $18 an hour, which,
Yeah, I think they're
not
talking about
enough.
$25 an hour now.
uh-huh.
for
And
some-
Janice, what is your opinion about a $25 hour?
That's what I'm getting in Granby now, but it's without benefits.
Oh dear.
But I was 20 for 16 years or something in Hadley, so.
Yeah,
And that was good to start, but it wasn't good in the last several years, you know, it didn't change over time.
yeah, these positions are really underpaid. So they're pretty enthusiastic about it. And I know that it is complicated. I know that there's a lot of hoops politically and fiscally that you have to jump through to create a position like this. And I know from the town's experience with the regional school district, things can be very contentious about formulas about how towns share costs. But, you know, there are ways to make these things work. Maybe some towns have more of a will to make
You're
these.
still on? I wish they'd get to
Anyway,
it.
I've asked Penny to be the Pelham Conservation Commission always meets on Thursdays, the same Thursdays that we meet. So it's not convenient for us to attend one of their meetings unless we postpone one of our meetings. So the idea was to possibly have Penny go. And they also had talked about possibly arranging a meeting on a different night so that we could attend and have a joint meeting. So they were interested in having a joint meeting with us. I guess I'd like to hear from the commission if you guys want to be a part of that discussion, or we could send Penny and I could go. We do what you want. Scott?
Yeah, I'm just wondering you said that Becky didn't think that it had been a very compelling case put forth to date. I'm wondering the need in terms of the types of work that we would be looking for this person to do and the skill sets that we would need. Is it wetland delineation, or is it, actually better like a hydrologist, or is it,
Well, my
other
understanding-
types of
So my understanding, and just so you know, Carrie, we're not talking about legislating you out of a job. So please don't think that's what this is about. Your job is secure. But my understanding is, and Janice can respond to this since you've been in this position, but an agent is able to work independently, do site visits, can draft orders, consult with DEP on behalf of the commission, and can generally consult to the commission about wetlands regulations. So it's having.
It's not technical expertise that we're looking to get.
It is
per se.
technical expertise. It's a professional level position. It's usually a person with a master's degree who
Yeah.
knows how to delineate wetlands and knows the regulations and can draft paperwork.
I see. And so the technical expertise that I'm just trying to think of the need and how
So
we
think
would
a little
be.
bit about like what Emily Stockman does for us.
Right. And so it seems like is there a case to be made that we could save money by doing that? Because there's a need, we're contracting it to Emily right now. We could, for the same amount of money, we could have someone to get more projects done in more hours. Is there a business case that you've put together that you think makes sense to do that? I guess that's what I'm trying to get at.
Well, we're not paying for Emily. So from a business sense, Emily's
Yeah.
being paid for by the applicants for specific projects. So it's not costing the town anything to have Emily as a consultant. And so I think that if there's a notice of intent for a large project, we would still have a third-party reviewer because that's sort of doing our due diligence to review and doing peer-to-peer review, and but that wouldn't replace having an agent. Maybe other folks here who know more about what agents do could talk about what would the arguments would be for having one.
Yeah, so another aspect that would be great to have is somebody that could do what Liam was just doing. Somebody who has some GIS experience and maybe even some like trail planning and experience with, bog bridging and that kind of thing. That would be a wonderful asset to have too. Certainly somebody who understands wetlands and maybe has done delineations before and that kind of thing.
And help with the land management for managing the conservation properties.
Yeah, and even, a lot of actually the kind of stuff that Penny's been helping us with, there's a lot of writing up of things. It would be great to have somebody, and I'm sure between the three towns, a full-time position, there'd be plenty of work.
It
Right.
might even be that there's another town that might also want to participate, ideally. Could be 4 towns.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Penny.
No, I was just going to say, when I look at this, if we continue to have a clerk position, I don't think Shutesbury needs more than, say, 4 to 6 hours a week. But especially now that we don't have someone like Mark Stinson to rely upon, and I don't know where that stands or what the future is. I feel like the commission needs someone who has a really solid understanding of the Wetlands Protection Act, all of the paperwork, how to process all the paperwork, because frankly, right now, Miriam, you're doing way too much stuff. And,
So-
having someone who can have everything set up for all of the jurisdictional work before the meetings would be a godsend.
It would be a
Mhm.
godsend.
It's always been really, really difficult.
So just so you know, while we're talking about this also, just to throw this in the mix. So we don't have, DP is not able right now, in my opinion, to provide the kind of consultation that we used to get with Mark. I mean, I do reach out to Tom Grishko and John Moriarty, but I'm not getting the kind of support that Mark used to give. P.S. Mark is starting a consulting service for conservation commissions.
Oh, really? Has he stepped out of his position permanently?
That's what he's telling me.
Yes.
If we wanted to explore, he's working with David Cameron, his former boss, who also is stepping out of his permanent position.
Oh, my.
And if we wanted to talk with them about what they do, this would be short of creating a position or sharing a position with another town. It would be, trying to get money from the town to have a contracted consultant. We could explore that with them.
Interesting. So the other thing I would throw into this conversation is that I think there is the possibility of getting funding through the FERCog, which is the Franklin Regional
Council
County.
of Government.
Council
Yeah.
of Governments, to at least in the beginning fund a shared position. And so I'm very interested in exploring that. The rub in this particular threesome between Leverett and Pelham and Shutesbury is that Pelham is in Hampshire County while Leverett and Shutesbury are in Franklin County.
So it's
Ah.
possible Wendell might be interested.
Right, or some other nearby small town.
I called, is it Peggy Sloan, who's the
Yep.
natural resources planner at
No,
FERC?
she's the director.
The director. I had a conversation with her about this. She said that there is a model for how to do this at the county level through county government. They did this in Berkshire County several years ago. She had suggested that if 2 or more Franklin County towns wanted to apply for this planning grant that's available through FERCog, you could develop a feasibility study for it. However, the deadline has come and gone for that, and it would have had to come from Becky, and Becky wasn't willing to pursue it.
Although I think there is some flexibility there. In
On that
time.
grant?
Right.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
That's the DLTA money?
Yeah. I thought
Yeah.
the deadline was like the end of January.
Yeah, well,
Well, we would need to have the select board on board because they need to finalize that application, so. All right, there's more. I will share that document that got circulated, and I guess we'll hear back about whether Pelham wants to meet with us, and if so, I'll let you guys know when that meeting is. And if enough of us can come, we can post it as a joint meeting for us and the other Conservation Commission. Otherwise, it would just be some representatives sub quorum going to their conservation meeting. We should move on, and I see that the Gories are here. They've been waiting very patiently, or John Gory's here and his partners. So are you guys there? So I see Celeste. Is that you, Celeste, or is that John? You're unmuted. Can you unmute? Okay. Has everybody had a chance to look through the documents that we circulated about the 2008 notice of intent for 8 Lake Drive. Were there any questions about that? This is for the retaining wall that was built on their property at the same time that there was a whole notice of intent by the Lake Whale Association. So there was like a couple dozen projects done during the drawdown period that year. And they want to get the orders of conditions off the deed. So any questions or comments about it? I mean, I guess the order of conditions were pretty minimal, and I imagine the site is very well vegetated at this point. So I don't know how easy it was for you to see the retaining wall.
It was very easy.
Or you could see it.
Yeah.
Good.
He walked us right down to it. You could see it totally intact. Land was revegetated. No pile,
Yeah.
nothing left on the soil surface from either project. Because it was cold, he invited us into that new basement room to write up our report. Yeah, I would say it looked fine.
Great. Don, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I looked at my emails from 2008 from that time. So I was on the commission, so was Randy Stone, so was Kevin Ware. We all took a look at that during the drawdown. We're the ones that made note of the pipe that was there. There were a lot of pipes showing during that drawdown all over the place on that side of the lake. But what I do remember is that they sunk that footing down pretty good. That wall was a really nice construction, that it was really well done. At the time, nothing had been built on the extension of the house, but the wall looked great.
Okay, great. All right. So we'll take these one at a time. So would somebody like to let me pull up the draft certificate of compliance. Give me one sec to screen share. I have it all queued up. Hopefully I can find it. So certificate of compliance for the 2008. Here we go. I can't see it. Can you guys see it? I've got too many
Part of
things.
it.
Off of it.
I've got too many things open. All right, here it is. Can you see it? All right.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think I filled it out correctly because it's pretty straightforward. Here's the details about the project. It's a complete certification. And then we need to sign. And I have already added everybody's names. Mary's not here, so I'll take her name off. If I have everybody's permission to digitally sign for you.
Got mine.
Okay.
Yep.
And Scott.
Yep.
Okay, so would somebody like to make a motion to approve this certificate of compliance?
I make a motion to approve the certificate of compliance for the 8 Lake Road.
Okay, in a second.
Second.
Beth seconds. Okay, DeFont, aye. Harrington,
Aye.
on,
Aye.
and Wilson.
Aye.
Okay, great. So I'm going to stop that screen share. And I'll pull up the next one, if I can find it. Make sure it's open. Screen share, okay. And get back to screen share. Oh, that's not screen sharing. You've no idea how many things I've opened on my computer right now. It's madness. It's like all these documents. It's too much. All right. So here's the certificate of compliance. All right. And pretty much the same thing. This is 2016. So for this project is where they put an addition on under a deck. Is that what the addition was?
Yes.
So pretty much previously disturbed soils, and they put this addition on, and again, the order of conditions were pretty minimal. It's mostly construction phase. requirements. So that's all long time resolved. Any questions or comments?
No.
All right. So again, I have everybody's permission to sign for you digitally.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
We take Mary off. All right. And would somebody like to make a motion to approve this certificate of compliance for
Like-
8 Lake Drive?
I'll make a motion to approve certificate of compliance for 8 Lake Drive.
For the
I will-
2016 project. Okay, great. All right, and a second,
Second,
Beth seconds. DeFont, I, Harrington,
Aye.
Khan. You're lost your voice, and Wilson.
aye.
Khan says aye.
I said
Okay.
aye, on
Okay.
mute.
All right. Great. Okay. All right. So I don't know if you can hear me, but we'll send these off in the mail, certified mail, to the applicant tomorrow, and I will send a digital copy as well. One thing you need to know is that you have to take it to the Franklin Registry of Deeds to add it to have it, what's the word? Registered, not registered. There's a term I'm using.
Recorded.
Recorded, thank you. And then you need to complete the bottom of the certificate of compliance and return it to us. And the bottom, you tear off and it says, you know, what date you recorded it with the register.
That's fine.
Okay, so we'll just send those in the mail to us, or you can drop them off in an envelope to the Concom in the
Yep.
Dropbox at Town Hall, and you should be good to go.
Thank you very much.
Would you prefer to pick these up at Town Hall tomorrow rather than getting them certified mail?
I could pick them up.
I mean, if you want them sooner, I just don't know if you're in a hurry or not.
So,
I can pick them up.
Okay. I will have them at Town Hall by 10:30 tomorrow.
Okay.
The town clerk, I'll put it in the mailbox for the Conservation Commission. So whoever answers the door should be able to retrieve it from the Conservation Commission's mailbox for you. And I'll put your name on it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for all you did. Thank you.
Okay, back to our agenda. So I wanted to, I sent you guys the CC on the communication. Maybe we can use the time to put them. I sent a CC to you about the communication with Becky Torres about the highway department. Did everybody get a chance to look at that?
Yes.
So I think they were looking for our response to the complaint about the violation on Montague Road. And, you know, I guess I left it to them if they want to have a meeting about it. I mean, perhaps we should have a meeting with them about it. We could do another like 3:30 in the afternoon time. Would that work for you, Beth?
Yeah.
Scott, you can't do that, however. But Tim is only available between the hours of like 8 and 4. So are there certain days that work better for you guys?
Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays.
Okay. How about you, Robin?
That sounds good to me.
Okay. And Janice, Don, would you guys want to attend?
I probably should. Yeah, and I mean, you know, make your time for when you can make it, and I'll make myself available.
Okay.
I think probably not, since I don't get along with either one of them very well. So I think it's best to stay out.
Okay. Did anybody have any thoughts about the response I gave about following up? I felt like Becky sort of was saying, let's wait till May to talk about the memorandum of understanding. And I guess my feeling is, no, the memorandum of understanding is currently executed and in play. So we need to be making it operational now. We can wait to talk about the notice of intent if that's what they want, but not for the memorandum of understanding. And I think the real issue is that we need a back and forth communication. We need them to tell us when they're going to be out working in areas, so that we're not, always sort of doing this after the fact when somebody sort of randomly notices something. It's hard for us to go and patrol the roads every day to see what maintenance is being done. So I do like the idea of doing some mapping. So I did want to talk with you, Beth, tonight about whether you would be willing to help with that. I'm trying to learn how to do GIS mapping in a very lame way since I don't have anybody teaching me. But we could go out and collect data, right? We could go out and take photos of spots that we think are, I even thought, what if we had a work party where, we went out in teams and went and each took a road, or two people took a road, and we just drove down the road and stopped where we felt like there were wetland areas, took some photographs, and then loaded those up into GIS as an overlay.
Yeah, we can GPS points too, that
GPS
people, agree is something that we consider to be a resource area. I think maybe a good place to start is, didn't you say there was already a map that had been given?
I talked with Linda about it. The map was based on the DEP overlays, so it was not a custom-made map for the town, but it is a big map, and it's on the wall at the in the Concom office, and then there's a copy that was given to the highway department. So it doesn't, the problem is it just doesn't have all the intermittent streams and the culverts. I don't think there is a map of all the culverts that are in town. I mean, so it might be interesting if we were going to go and do this to also like go down and record the locations of all the culverts, because I know that the town has talked many times about wanting to do an inventory of culverts. So
yeah, that's a great start, actually, to have a map at least that has the culverts on it.
Right.
And then
those are usually the resource areas.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, some of it. And then, like you said, splitting up and maybe taking looks at different roads, different people look at different roads and identify areas that they think. And then maybe once we have the idea, the areas that we're interested in, we can definitely go and GPS the points and bring them in and create some layers in GIS with that.
Or are you saying go back with a GPS or to use the GPS coordinates for in the photos?
Yeah, I mean, I would be doing it pretty simply with like my phone and actually, adding points to some kind of a GIS layer on my phone, which you would then at the same time can take pictures too.
Yeah.
And they can be associated with that point.
Do you use a phone app with a GIS phone app?
Yeah, so in Amherst, we use something called Field Maps, which is just an app that anybody can download onto their phone. But then you have to create a map to go with it, kind of like in ArcGIS.
Base map.
Yeah, base map in ArcGIS.
Can you export what you get in field maps to ArcGIS?
It goes right in. So Field Maps is kind of associated with ArcGIS. Yeah, so once you download Field Maps, then you click on it, and then as long as you have ArcMap an account and you have a base map, then when you drop a point, it shows up on your base map, and
fantastic.
It's very fun. You can create maps that way.
So I have a GIS account that I've been learning with. So I probably have the app also because there was a whole bunch of things I could download. I haven't gotten that far. So will it work with an Android phone or do you need an iPhone?
Nope, I think it works on both. I
Cool.
have an iPhone, but I used to have an Android, and the earlier version of Field Maps worked on Android, so I'm sure it does.
Scott,
Those
Robin,
geo-referenced, the geo-referenced photos that Beth is talking about can be exported to the data layer files that you have an
Right.
account for on GIS, and then you just build that base map.
right, that's what I'm trying to learn. I understand the concept. It's yeah. So I know that Janice and Don and Beth have some mapping skills. Robin and Scott, is this something that you guys are familiar with?
I'm not familiar with it. I would not be against learning it. If there was anything I could do to help.
Yeah, I've used similar, not that exact app, but we've used similar ones before.
Yeah.
For ARC.
Larry, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, I used ArcGIS in college, my sophomore year. I did okay in it. I still have my textbook from it, so
Nice.
that might be helpful later down the line. I'd be willing to bring it in.
You could do a tutorial with me.
Okay,
during your
be
office
willing
hours.
to. I don't remember any of it. It was a little stressful when I was learning it.
So I'm thinking that we should plan this, that we could plan for this for March. And do it on a weekend. Maybe folks could email me with dates that look good for you on the weekends. Once the snow is gone, it'll be pretty easy to see where the wetlands are.
Yeah.
Everything's gonna be all wet, but
Right.
so I like that idea. I think we should do that. I think it would be fun. And if you're working in a team, one person could be doing photographs and one person could be taking notes, and then we can gather it all together and put it together. So I think I'll email Becky and let her know that we're doing that. And I guess we'll see how they respond. I feel like, it's a game of chess, like we take a move, they're taking a move, we take a move. I wish we could get past that and just kind of, work.
When you tell them that you're mapping the culverts, you're gonna win a lot of friends. Nobody knows where the culverts are.
Okay.
What,
Not even the DPW? They don't know where the culverts
No, I
are?
don't think
Them especially, they don't know where the culverts are. And, the big culverts, the cement ones, the steel pipe ones that Roaring Brook Road goes through, and on the other side on Cooleyville Road, everybody knows where those are. But the ones that are on, for instance, Montague Road, no, they find them by accident with the snowplow.
Yeah, my husband and I, for grins and giggles, counted how many culverts there were on Wendell Road one day, and like just a nerdy thing to do. It's like counting backyard birds, and I think there were over 20. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure there were over 20 culverts. Janice, you've got your hand raised.
I was just wondering, to me, I know I have very poor coverage in Shutesbury with my cell phone. And do you need to have satellite coverage in order to be able to do this GPSing along the roads? I'm just wondering if that's going to be a problem.
With Field Maps, there's a way to to save a point on your phone. And then when you do have coverage, then it gets uploaded to the web page and gets added to your map. So when you first record it, if you don't have cell phone service, it just saves it.
Oh, okay.
You could carry a backup GPS too, like a Garmin or something like that. Point.
I talked with a friend of mine of Janice's and mine, who lives in Leverett, who does a lot of mapping, Eva Gibovic, and what she uses is an iPad with a cellular plan, and she just goes out there with her GIS app on her iPad, and even in areas where there's no cell signal, it works. Robin, you're talking.
I just wanted to tell you, I am going to be away from March 5 to March 19. So I'm going to miss the first meeting in March because I believe in March we go back to 2 meetings. So I'm going to
No.
miss.
Nope, we only have one in March.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have a
Anyway,
meeting.
I'm going to miss it,
Okay,
but I'm also going to be gone from the 5th through the 19th.
okay,
So I'm not going to be available to do,
okay,
this activity, but while I'm home, I'm happy to help.
okay. What would be helpful to me, and we don't have to do it right now, but if people want to email me which roads you think we should cover. I don't think we should cover every single road in town, but I think, you guys could probably think of which ones and
The dirt.
the dirt roads,
Montague Road.
Montague, Wendell.
Those are the ones that have all the maintenance, and I think they're
That
the ones.
corner has some issues.
Mhm.
And those are the three, the biggest ones that have issues. I suppose Baker, but Baker's pretty flat. There's Sand Hill. There's some culverts on Sand Hill. And I would say when Locks Pond Road,
Mhm.
Locks Pond and the paved part of Wendell, because there's just a lot of culverts all along that road. They're just everywhere. All this water that goes down toward the lake. So I would say those are the ones to prioritize. Oh, and Cooleyville Road. Oh, Cooleyville. And I
Yeah.
want to say I was hiking there about a month or so ago with my family and saw all sorts of stormwater cuts similar to what we saw on Wendell Road, where it was eroding into wetlands. I
Oh,
saw
yeah.
half a dozen of them there or more, where there was discharges, releases. So that's a real problem area. Carrie, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw it out there, but I have a friend who actually minored in GIS, so if we ever wanted like outside help too, I know she might be willing to help.
Nice to know. Okay.
She's very comfortable with it and really likes using the application. I tried getting her to help me from here and there, but at the time she was in college up in New Jersey.
Okay, good to know. All right. I don't think there's more that we need to do except that we'll try to have this joint meeting. I think that Becky is trying to arrange a meeting with her and me to talk about these issues. I just want to say I personally feel that this is a conservation issue. I really would prefer to have a meeting involving the commission.
Mhm.
I really don't want this to become an issue of personalities. I think this is an issue of policy and jurisdiction, not personalities. And if it's just two people, it's easy to say, oh, that other person's not being cooperative or they're being difficult. And I really don't want that to be about it. So
Yeah.
it has to be two people. I nominate Scott.
I'll just say I was troubled by the letter that was written back, and it has a bit of, and maybe it's just me, but I read some tone into this that it seems like this isn't important, or they're not prioritizing this important. It doesn't come across that way to me. And to me, I mean, this is something the town should be leading on. I wouldn't think that the town would want to be seen as anything other than leaning in on this issue to safeguard the wetlands in town and their own bylaw. So I just wanted to say they left it really open here in terms of what the next steps would be.
There were no, we had a bunch of action steps and there was no response to any of the action steps. There wasn't a single thing where they said, yeah, we had like 5 numbered or bulleted action steps and none of them were responded to.
So I mean, I'd be happy to attend, and I think we have to get with the goal of, we need to move this to a productive place where we're working together. I mean,
Mhm.
it should not be an adversarial conversation. ideally.
Good.
Well, I applaud your enthusiasm and
Optimism.
optimism.
I'm just saying what I think it should or shouldn't be. I'm not saying,
You haven't been ground down by town politics yet, so it's great.
That's good.
Like we throw new people in to the Coliseum.
what is the role of the board? I mean, I guess that would be a question that I have is, we're dealing with the town administrator who's staff, but it's really the select board, is it not, who would be making decisions over like policy direction for the town
Yes.
here. And if we're not, I think at some point we should work through this, but if we're not making progress, then I think we need another joint session with the select board.
Don, I see your hand raised. I just wanted to follow up one thing about the email. What's getting lost in the email response that we've gotten is that this is really like an enforcement issue. I mean, technically speaking, we could have, and we still could issue an enforcement order against the town. We have that jurisdiction. We don't want to do that. We're
Right.
we're not throwing that in their face, but this isn't just like we're an advisory board and please, town government, please like talk to us. We actually are the ones who are enforcing a law here. So that is concerning to me. The other piece about a notice of intent is that it's great if we want to help them develop a notice of intent, but really it's their responsibility. We have to keep the boundaries clear. They're the applicant, we're the regulatory body. So the applicant usually is responsible. They have to do their due diligence to develop a notice of intent and demonstrate that they can protect the wetland interests. And usually that might involve, for a big project, hiring their own wetland consultant. And so when Becky says that she's too busy or Tim's too busy, that's why I kind of pushed back on that and said, well, you could hire a consultant like other towns do to develop your notice of intent so that you don't have to do it. And we don't have to do it either. We shouldn't do it. We really shouldn't be. We can help them a little, but it's kind of a conflict for us to develop a notice of intent that we're issuing an order on. We really should have a clear, bright line between our role and their role. Do you agree, Janice?
Oh, definitely. Yes. And I think that they should take it into consideration more because they're getting this email from DEP. It's not just from the Concom.
Right. I don't know if we have to issue, if it's going to get to a place where we have to issue an enforcement letter or we could issue what they call a friendly enforcement, which is not a formal enforcement order. It's just a friendly letter saying, PS, you're in non-compliance. We could issue an enforcement order, kind of a warning. Please develop a notice of intent. I mean, so if it came to that, we could issue a letter like that. But again, I kind of really don't want to have to go there. Don, you wanted to talk?
I just wanted to say, I think Scott's got a good idea about back channeling with the DPW. That's the way to pursue this. And I'm not saying that going to the TA's office is a bad idea. I'm just saying that the more people that get involved in the process, the more it gets slowed down. Sometimes if just Scott or someone like Scott can talk to the DPW and the future head of the DPW, not just him, you'll be able to make a lot more progress. I'm sure that when Beth talks to the water department people, or the DPW down in Amherst, there's always, this sort of, who's in charge, who are you talking to kind of issue. You got to go through channels, but it's so much easier when you just talk to the people that are doing the work.
Well, Scott,
anyway,
would you like to contact Tim yourself and just try to?
Well, I guess I thought what you were suggesting, Miriam, is that it would be several, like me and you going to talk with Becky, and I guess I am a little, I wasn't suggesting going to talk directly with Tim, only from the standpoint, I mean, I agree with Don, I think that would be best. But here, I think we've been specifically told by Becky, she didn't want us talking to the highway department without going through her. And I think I'll just be blunt. I think ultimately, just from what I read in this back and forth, I think it's going to end up going to the select board anyways, is my guess. That would be having this conversation saying, look, we've reached out, we're trying to work productively here with the town on to help resolve these issues, but we're not getting anywhere. And I think if they want us to work through the town administrator to get there, then I'm willing to give that a shot. But I don't think we should
Well,
do it forever.
One of the things that Penny has said worked well with Tim in the past was to have one liaison person who would talk to Tim Hunting on the phone
Oh.
because he doesn't do email, and to discuss or review areas.
I'd be happy to talk with Tim about it if you think that that would be, I just didn't want to go and then have it be a thing where Becky is now, you know, has her nose bent out of shape because we went directly to Tim to have this conversation, and Tim's gonna be
Yeah.
out the door.
I am a little concerned about that because there's been, when I've gone to Tim, there was some pushback that we weren't supposed to be going directly to Tim. And going to the select board, I don't know how productive it's going to be. As you know, that meeting in November was an example of, you know, that's why I feel like in some ways we just need to kind of stick to our guns around what our jurisdiction is and trying to educate them about the fact that this is not a voluntary situation. They're
do-
obligated to respond.
Do you want to suggest a meeting, Miriam? And maybe we suggest I'm just throwing this out there. We suggest a meeting, a date. But by which if we can't get this pulled together in a reasonable amount of time, that we need to do our due diligence and proceed forward with an enforcement order, which is not where we want to go, but that.
Well, we're gonna get them. So one of the things, the action steps that we talked about tonight is that we're gonna develop some maps.
Yep.
And we are going to try and have a meeting around the Montague Road site. I think just to do our due diligence, Becky seemed to take issue with the fact that we did a site visit without inviting her. Again, I don't know that it was we were obligated to invite her to be a part of an initial site visit. It's we have our own regulatory process, and then we can have them come to a site visit with us. But it's not quite the same as, you know, where we go to somebody's private property and we have to have their permission to go on private property. This was on a road, and it was on the right of way of the road. So let's try to arrange a site visit with Becky and Tim around that. So do that piece. I guess I'm feeling a little like, you know, I'm not sure meetings are going to work unless, you know, we kind of give them an ultimatum that they need to develop an NOI. That's why I think it's going to end up being, is that we have to say that we mean business. Otherwise, it's just going to, listen, they wore down the Conservation Commission for years with the Conservation Commission begging them to develop an NOI. And then it ended up that the Conservation Commission just gave up and settled for a memorandum of understanding, which then went in the circular file.
What happens if they don't develop an NOI, Miriam? What is the or else piece of it?
That we would issue enforcement orders.
I think that would be good to lay it out with a timeline.
And then we all get dismissed from the Conservation Commission.
Well, then I bet they would
No,
be
they
in
can't do that. They can't dismiss us.
Then you go to the press.
Yeah, they're not allowed to fire us for things like that. So
It would
so I-
bolster the case for hiring that staff person.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, except that, our staff person can't do the work that they need to do. They need to understand that it's their responsibility. Just like Penny, I'm not sorry, Becky hired a consultant. They hired engineers to develop the culvert notice of intent. They have to do the same thing. They can go to GZA or Ty and Bond or one of these other environmental firms, and they'll take care of them. They'll do it all for them.
Oh, no. I was saying if we all get dismissed, they're gonna need someone to like,
What?
I said, if we all get dismissed, they're gonna need that staff person to do all the other
Well,
site.
they can't dismiss it. I'm just being facetious. They can't do that, and they won't. But I do feel like we've gone to the select board, and we got lectured, and we didn't get to really explain what our jurisdiction and our authority was. I felt like we got undermined in that meeting, and it was frustrating. And so I think that perhaps we just have to stay on our own turf and do this in writing, and ask them to respond in writing.
I think it's good to have a paper trail.
Yep. I mean, I'm not trying to make things difficult for them. I'm just trying to, we're obligated to defend the wetlands and protect them. And
I think it's good for the town. I mean, ultimately, it is good for the town to be compliant with the state law. And, I think that puts them in the best position.
and the bylaw, they're also in violation of the town bylaw as well.
Right.
Because some of these wetlands are small enough that they would be jurisdictional under the bylaw. But so they're talking a lot about climate change. There's been a lot of discussion in the select board and the planning board about how do we went through this whole climate resilience program. I don't know if you guys were a part of that. Anybody else here? I was part of that team that had these listening sessions about climate resilience, and we developed this action plan. And one of the things they're talking about is developing a climate action committee to look at stormwater issues. And I feel like we have that. We have a committee to deal with stormwater issues on the roads. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of funny that, they want to start a committee, but then they're not willing to actually do anything
Right.
in terms of telling the DPW that a
Right.
notice of
Well, a
intent would be a
committee-
great
A
idea.
committee would be an advisory committee under the select board. It would not be a regulatory committee. So,
Right.
And that committee would be subject to being appointed, and who the select board wanted to appoint for such a board.
well, they've
So-
only had 3 applicants. And I applied, Michael DeCara applied, and Henry Geddes applied, and the select board is holding off on appointing anyone. So I guess they didn't get the right applicant.
They didn't like the first 3.
Because we were all troublemakers. But we all work really well together. We all like each other. So we would be a great team. I'd love to be on that committee with Michael, and it'd be awesome. All right. So other updates to move on so we can end. I thank you for talking about this. I just wanted to give you guys a few little updates about some other projects that are out there dangling. So there's the enforcement order for January Hills Road, 27 January Hills Road. They had a deadline to give us a plan, and Ellen Waldinger contacted me and said that her wetland scientist wanted to wait till the spring to do the delineation and wanted an extension. So I thought that I would ask the commission. I'm assuming that that will be acceptable. She is taking care of it. She's hired Ward Smith, who's doing all the delineations for everything in Shutesbury right now. He's on the Conservation Commission in Wendell as well. So anyway, is that okay with everybody?
Yep.
Yep.
And then I want to just give you a heads up that there is an NOI coming for 2 Wyola Drive, where they want to do some dredging to open up their dock so that it's gotten silted up and they want to dig it out. And so it's involves, removing sediment from the lake. And I believe it needs to be both a Chapter 91 application and the NOI. You can have both, right, Janice?
I think so. Yes. Yeah. One's sort of more federal or state level and one's local.
Right, when the Chapter 91 I know that DP told them that they had to get a Chapter 91
Yeah.
license application as well. So that is going to be coming in soon. And then the other thing was that 26 Lake Drive had an order of conditions that was issued in 2020, I think in the fall of 2020, to rebuild a house. And the name, this is like Michael Stotz and Anna Mancebo. Robin, you were on the commission. Is this ringing a bell?
Explain to me what it was about.
Building a house, rebuilding a cottage on the lake, on Lake Drive. And this was the property that Beth and I walked by and found erosion controls wanting, and then they've made a complaint about us going on the property. My understanding is that Becky has spoken with them, but that whole discussion at that select board meeting was because they came into town hall and talked to Grace and then talked to Becky about it. I wish they had just told us that there was a complaint.
Again, like that's the kind of stuff that came up at that select board meeting where, I mean, I think the lawyer did agree that if there's a permit issued, if there's an NOI and there's an order of conditions, it's written in the order of conditions that we can follow up as many times as we want to make sure that that permit is being followed.
Right.
So
there's still that order of conditions, they haven't completed the work.
Yeah.
And that was subject to our permit. So I looked at the order of conditions and they were supposed to submit a final planting plan and a plan for an infiltration trench for our approval. And they never did. And I emailed them in January 11th and didn't get a response. So I'm thinking I need to write them a letter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds that way.
All right, well, I will draft a letter. As long as I have the commission's permission to do so, I would like to do it now. And I'll just say I'm following up on the order of conditions and want to find out when you expect to get this information and when you can schedule a time with us to review it. My concern is that they probably have already put in the infiltration trench and it was never approved.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Well, they should submit a plan and at least you can see if it seems adequate or not.
Right, because it may be that this could be an enforcement order. If they either don't respond or they, we aren't happy with what they did. So I'm not.
Yeah, like if they have a new point source discharge. If they created one for that, I don't know, but.
Well, we can also ask for another site visit in March, perhaps when the snow is melted.
Mm-hmm.
So we can do that, take another look at it when we're not, when we're planning it. So maybe I'll ask them in the letter also to arrange a site visit with us.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, we can just be asking for an update on where the project's at this point, and that these certain things are still missing.
All right. Yeah, I think this is where I'd like to tweak our activity logs so that we can track when there's outstanding issues with orders of conditions so that we follow up and kind of close the feedback loop before 3 years run out. And, then we're kind of looking at a very old project and it's hard to evaluate. I think, if there's conditions where they needed to come back to us on something, we should be following up in a timely way and finding out whether the project's moving forward or not. Because otherwise we just have no way of knowing whether they're actually doing, unless we put in the conditions that we want to have construction phase site visits or post-construction site visits. But again, we have to follow up. Same
Right.
thing with, just as another one that's just I thought of is the 35 South Laurel Drive with their irrigation system. They needed to pull it out and develop a removable pipe. That's what DEP told them. And
Ah,
I think they needed to come back with us with their design. So we need to follow up on that one too.
mhm.
Put that on my list of to-dos.
I'm hearing a lot of work for an agent to be doing in the field, you know? Again,
A lot, it would be incredible to have somebody to do this. It would be. But you know, it is what it is. Okay, let me just check the agenda. I think we're done, but I just want to see, our next meeting is March 10th at 7 o'clock. I'm trying to remember what we have on that agenda. I think that is when the Montague Carver public hearing is happening. So we should be getting some documents from Maria in the next couple of weeks. And I'm imagining we'll have a big turnout for that public hearing again. And I did leave a message for Donna McNichol. I thought I would review some of the questions that got raised at the public, not the public hearing, at the
Right.
meeting last week, outside of the public hearing. And just run them by her so I could give some feedback at the, when we get to the public hearing. Okay, is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Anything else or should we adjourn?
I just wanted to ask if Robin, do you want to get together, you and I, and do a crash course on GIS using Mass Mapper, something you can fool around with on your own time that's easily accessible? Public Mass GIS is used all the time now, and I bet Carrie's even using it all the time for the maps that she's making.
I'm just curious, why did you select me?
I thought that anybody who hasn't used GIS very much would benefit from using Mass Mapper because they've rebuilt Mass Mapper, so it's more accessible to the public. And I was thinking you're the perfect candidate to see if you actually like it.
Well, that's the.
I
it's
would
the
be happy
Oliver-
to do that.
it's the Oliver system, right, Don?
It's the old Oliver system that's been redone.
Yeah,
Beth
But it
probably
doesn't let
uses
us-
it every day.
but it doesn't let us create content. It just lets
No,
us.
it doesn't allow you to create content. It just teaches you how to use GIS. That's all.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I would be open to that.
okay,
Yeah,
well, that's between you
good.
guys.
All right.
Scott,
Well, shoot me an email and we'll figure out a coffee day.
Okay. Scott,
All right.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. I just wanted to follow up. I did send you all an email following up on the conversation that we had last meeting, a little bit about minor exempt activities. And that was at the end of the meeting. I think it got a little confusing, or at least I felt a little confused at the end in terms of what we were actually saying, in terms of, you know, how our bylaw intersects with the Wetlands Protection Act. And I just wanted to call your attention to that in your email. I did put there the existing information that we have currently on our website, that we do point people to those minimum requirements. I think some of them are updated. They don't have all of what was in the revised Wetland Protection Act. And then I think we had this separate conversation about how our bylaw intersects with that. So I don't know when we want to circle back around to that, just maybe so at least so I have some clarity on that, and maybe some of you have more clarity than I do. But I just wanted to point that to your email, that I did try to assemble what was
Thanks.
there.
So I have two thoughts about it, Scott. On this
Sure.
one. One is that all of that information that was on the website no longer exists because Miriam had a big oops and did something very bad. And now the web committee is trying to help me because I accidentally deleted that whole page. So I didn't do that on purpose, and I'm so embarrassed. So anyway, there's no confusion to the public now because that is no longer there, except that when they click on the link that says when to call the Conservation Commission, it says no page available. So they will be confused. Anyway, so I will try to get that resurrected. What I would like to propose to the commission, because I was in doing the minutes, I felt like we went around in circles a bit and I didn't feel like we were moving forward. And I think that the bottom line is that there are different points of view here, which is fine. And we're trying to have a dialogue, and that we're trying to look at data. We want to make our decisions based on information that's useful to us. And some of the people who have a lot of experience on the commission have shared their perspective over a number of years. And then there's the perspective that we all have ourselves on who are currently on the commission. And so what I would like to propose before we have a further discussion about this is that we take a period of time, and what I'm going to suggest is a year, and collect data, that we look at what projects come in and what site visits we do. And we evaluate whether we had jurisdiction, whether they were minor exemptions, whether they were minor exemptions, but we gave them some advice that was useful anyway. Linda Scott shared with me that she felt like one of the big benefits of doing site visits is an opportunity to educate the public and to help them understand what we do and what wetlands are, so that even if we don't have jurisdiction, we're forming relationships with people and we're learning about what's on different properties. But I think that we should look at that, and then we should make some decisions based on that data is what I would like to suggest.
Are you guys collecting data on exempt activities?
Well, I went through the exemptions and I made some notes about, from my experience, what we are getting contacted about. And I would say that the majority of things that are under the minor exempt activities, we never hear about, people don't contact us, and we don't review. So if somebody's doing vista pruning, or somebody is putting in a pathway on their property, we'll never learn about it unless it becomes a permit or they contact us. So the vast majority of those activities we never hear about, but there's a few categories that I think we do hear about. And I think rather than sort of going by anecdote, let's actually collect some data about what we're doing, what our activities are. And that, you know, as we're collecting the information for our activity log for our next annual report, you know, we can take a look at that. So that's what I think would be the most productive thing for us, if the commission agrees.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, because it'll really give us a picture of whether or not those minor exemptions, you know, mean anything to us. Do we see those projects or not?
Right. So what I might do is, on our Excel spreadsheet where we're tracking visits, site visits, I might put a category for what was the nature of the project. Was it a minor exempt activity or not? So then we can tally that.
Yeah.
Which category of minor exempt activity it was. So we can just see, you know, what we're actually being asked to look at.
I think that would be really helpful, Miriam. I like the suggestion. And I think at the time when we are talking, it would be, I think one area of, maybe it's not a point of view question. I think it's just, I think it's confusing, would be the question on the bylaw and how the bylaw applies to minor exempt activities. I don't think that has a lot of clarity, because I think you know, if treating the buffer zone as a resource area, if that means that you're in effect doubling a buffer zone, or if you are saying that there aren't any minor exempt activities at all, I think that is, I'll just put that that's a question. Maybe it will become more clear as we're doing site visits and we're talking about that, to say, well, this is a minor exempt activity under the Wetlands Protection Act, but because of our bylaw, it's, you know, it would be regulated, or we would have an authority here. I think that's one area where I just have to say, I don't have clarity.
I think the reality, and I think one of the things that we can also be tracking is whether or not we issued orders that were under the bylaw specifically that weren't under the WPA, because I think the reality is, Scott, at least in the year and a half that I've been involved, and from the history that I hear from other people, is that the commission has not aggressively deployed the bylaw.
Yeah.
There's been a very soft touch with the way that the bylaw has been used, and it's been used in very selective ways. And I think that the bylaw, you know, and that's a concern, because the purpose of the bylaw was to create a more restrictive, broader jurisdiction. That was why the town passed a bylaw, was to have greater jurisdiction. And I think that there has been a history of the Conservation Commission being anxious about going out solo, using its bylaw jurisdiction alone when the WPA was not backing it up.
You also have
Mhm.
the DPW doing work like those country drainages that they've done on the dirt roads.
Yep.
And they've always considered that an exempt activity.
And none of it
Maintenance.
is, technically, none of it's an exempt activity.
No.
Also, I might even say cutting for forestry practices is not an exempt activity
Right.
under the bylaw. So even though DCR has an agricultural exemption, our bylaw doesn't, but by, you know, practice, the Conservation Commission has chosen to not force the forestry companies to, you know, apply for permits to do forestry.
I think Janice could tell you a lot about how foresters feel about having to go to conservation commissions with their cutting plans and their attitude about, you know, 132 and 131, which one supersedes the other. When they talk about agricultural exemptions, the law, you know, the Cutting Act was originally written for those agricultural exemptions to apply to things like old fields and places where agricultural had traditionally taken place. And then in the last decade, the forestry industry has forced the issue and made it sound like all forestry is an agricultural exemption. So, you know,
But it's not an exemption. It's not in the definitions for the bylaw. And, you know, I think, again, before we just start jumping into regulations and saying, oh, let's just make the bylaw a mirror image of the Wetlands Protection Act, we need to step back and remind ourselves that the purpose of the bylaw was to broaden our jurisdiction in some critical areas, because the Wetlands Protection Act is an imperfect tool, and DEP is imperfect, granted. And we want to look at, you know, how often are we, you know, how can we be using the bylaw more effectively? We had a lot of people at the meeting last week, a month ago, and a lot of people were very angry because they felt like we were not following the bylaw. There were probably 45 people on the meeting, and they were all, you know, there was a petition of dozens of people who were protesting that the Conservation Commission is not exercising and deploying its jurisdiction under the bylaw. So before we start weakening it, I think we need to think very carefully and look at this carefully.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone or at least I'm not suggesting to weaken it at all. I think my hope is to better understand it for myself, so that it's more clear to me as we're talking about, you know, our jurisdictions and how they differ, especially in, you know, in for all of these projects to understand what is the Wetlands Protection Act. And then separate from that, the bylaw to really understand that piece of it. And I like your suggestion, Miriam, of going through as we're talking about projects, so we can actually sort some of that out to better understand. But it's definitely, my goal is not to weaken the bylaw, it's to better understand, how they play together.
And actually, when we do orders of conditions, we should have findings under both statutes. That's a practice that the Conservation Commission has not used. But the order of conditions should have a findings section, and we should say what our findings are under the Wetlands Protection Act and then under the bylaw, because they are they might be the same, but they might be different. And I think we should be spelling that out.
Wasn't that what Mark Stinson advised you guys to do?
Yeah, he was advising us to do it, but I'm seeing a lot of orders of conditions from, a year ago, 2 years ago, where that didn't happen. So I think now we're starting to up our game here a little bit. So.
Okay. Sorry,
we're doing it.
This helped me, so thank you. I just wanted to circle around. Back.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that feels right to everybody. And I think that then we'll have some real information to, rather than, trying to just go by anecdotes, it's just not as useful. So, okay. All right, let's adjourn. It's 9:02. Call the meeting. Would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
I second.
Harrington seconds. Okay. DeFont, aye. Harrington,
Aye.
Khan,
Aye.
and Wilson.
Aye.
Okay. Good night. Good night, Carrie. Thanks.
Good night. Thanks all.
Aye, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.